poor girl's husband said no one would want you, but when Millionaire saw her confidently beside another man, Millionaire went crazy. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Imagine living your whole life with someone who constantly tells you that you're not good enough, that no one would ever want you. Now, imagine what would happen if that person saw you, confidently standing beside another man, someone who truly appreciates you. How do you think they would react? Well, today, we're going to tell you a story about Anna, a woman who had been told for years that she would never be loved by anyone else. But when the moment came and she stood beside another man, her husband went absolutely crazy. Let's go back to where it all started. Anna had always tried to be the perfect wife. She would wake up early to make breakfast, clean the house, and put her heart into everything she did. But no matter what she did, Lucas, her husband, never seemed to appreciate it. He would say things like, "You're lucky to have me," or, "No one will ever want you, Anna. Look at you." It wasn't just the words that hurt. It was the constant undermining of her self-worth. Every day, Anna felt smaller and smaller. The woman who once had dreams of being independent and successful had slowly lost herself in a marriage that seemed to suffocate her. Lucas was everything she had ever dreamed of, charming, successful, and confident. But somewhere along the way, his confidence turned into control, and his charm turned into manipulation. The harsh words, the constant criticism, they started to eat away at Anna's spirit, and she began to believe them. She started to doubt herself, to think that maybe Lucas was right. Maybe no one would ever want her. But deep down, there was a voice inside her, a small spark that kept telling her there was more to her than what Lucas saw. And that spark was starting to grow brighter. One evening, after another argument where Lucas had belittled her, Anna decided that something needed to change. She couldn't keep living like this, constantly trying to prove herself to someone who would never see her value. Anna had a choice to make. She could stay and continue being the woman Lucas wanted her to be, or she could finally stand up for herself. That's when she ran into Mark. Mark was an old friend from college who had always admired Anna from afar. He was different from Lucas, supportive, kind, and genuine. When they reconnected, Anna was surprised at how easy it was to talk to him. For the first time in years, she felt like someone was truly seeing her for who she was, not who they wanted her to be. Mark didn't make her feel small. He didn't criticize her. He made her feel powerful, confident, and most importantly, worthy of love. As their friendship grew, so did Anna's confidence. She started making changes in her life, taking up new hobbies, investing in her career, and, most importantly, rediscovering who she was outside of her marriage. She started dressing differently, feeling better about herself, and for the first time in a long while, Anna was smiling. And she wasn't just smiling because of Mark. She was smiling because she had found herself again. But little did she know, this newfound confidence would spark something much bigger, something she wasn't ready for. One night, Anna and Mark went out for drinks to celebrate her new job. They were laughing and talking, and as they left the bar, they ran into none other than Lucas. He had been looking for her after their latest argument, and when he saw her standing beside Mark, something inside him snapped. It wasn't just the fact that she was with another man. It was the way she was standing there, with her head held high, completely different from the woman he had known for so long. Anna was no longer the fragile, insecure wife he had controlled for years. She was someone else now, and that terrified Lucas. He couldn't believe his eyes. This was the woman he had belittled, the woman he had told would never be loved. But now, she was standing beside another man, someone who clearly admired her. It was like a switch had been flipped. Lucas's mind raced, his heart pounded with jealousy, anger, and a deep sense of fear. Fear of losing control, fear of losing Anna. He didn't know how to react. But one thing was certain, he wasn't going to let her go so easily. After their unexpected encounter at the bar, Lucas was seething with anger. He watched as Anna and Mark exchanged a few more words, their laughter still echoing in the cool night air. Anna was no longer the same woman he had controlled for years. The insecurity that once clung to her like a shadow was gone. She stood tall, confident and free. It was clear she was different, more alive, more vibrant than ever before. But Lucas couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept the fact that she had found her own strength without him. As he stood there, fuming, Anna noticed him from the corner of her eye. Her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly steadied herself. She wasn't that fragile woman anymore. She didn't need to hide. She didn't need to shrink away from him. Mark noticed the tension in the air and immediately excused himself, giving Anna the space to confront her husband. Anna took a deep breath, knowing that this moment was inevitable. Lucas was not going to let her go that easily. Anna, Lucas said, his voice cold and sharp. What are you doing? Why are you with him? He gestured toward Mark, his eyes filled with a mixture of jealousy and disbelief. Anna felt a wave of emotions crash over her. She knew this moment would come. She had braced herself for it. But nothing could prepare her for the flood of anger and hurt that poured from Lucas. I'm not doing anything, Lucas, Anna replied, her voice steady but firm. I'm just living my life. Something you've never allowed me to do. Lucas's face twisted with fury. Don't be ridiculous, Anna. You think you're better than me now? You think someone like him would actually want you? His words hit her like a slap in the face, but Anna refused to let him see the hurt. She stood her ground, meeting his eyes without flinching. You told me no one would want me, Lucas, Anna said, her voice calm but filled with conviction. But you were wrong. I've learned that I don't need your approval to be happy. I don't need to prove anything to you anymore. There was a long pause as Lucas processed her words. The silence stretched between them like an impenetrable wall. His anger slowly shifted to something else, something darker. So what? You think this is it? You're just going to walk away from everything we built together? His voice cracked with a mixture of desperation and disbelief. Anna could see the fear in his eyes now. He was afraid of losing control, afraid of losing her. But Anna had already made her decision. She had walked away from his manipulation. She wasn't going back. You never built anything with me, Lucas, Anna said quietly. You controlled me. You suffocated me. I couldn't breathe. But now I can. I've found my own way, and it doesn't include you. Lucas took a step toward her, his face twisted with anger. You're making a huge mistake, Anna. You think you can just walk away from me and be happy? You think Mark is the answer? You think he's better than me? Anna could feel her heart pounding in her chest, but her resolve was stronger than ever. I'm not walking away from you, Lucas. I'm walking toward myself. I'm walking toward the woman I've always been, the woman you tried to bury. Mark is not the answer, Lucas. I am. I always have been. The words hung in the air like a final declaration. Lucas stood there, staring at her, unable to comprehend what she had just said. He had never seen Anna like this. So sure, so confident, so free. He had always believed that he was the only one who could define her, but now, he was the one who felt small. For the first time in years, Anna felt a sense of relief wash over her. The weight of Lucas's control had been lifted, and she could finally breathe. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living, and she wasn't about to let anyone take that from her. I don't need your approval, Lucas, Anna said, her voice steady. I'm not your possession. I'm not here to be controlled by you anymore. This is my life, and I'm going to live it for me. Lucas stood there, staring at her, his mind racing with a whirlwind of emotions. He had never imagined Anna would turn on him like this. He had never imagined that the woman he once held in the palm of his hand would break free. He had underestimated her. And now, it was too late. As Anna turned to walk away, she felt a sense of empowerment she had never known before. For the first time in her life, she was making her own decisions. She was no longer living for someone else. She was living for herself. The sound of Lucas's footsteps echoed in her ears, but she didn't look back. She didn't need to. She was done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. Done with the fear. And most importantly, she was done with letting anyone define her worth. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, Anna felt ready to face it. She wasn't alone anymore. She had found herself, and that was enough. As Anna walked away from Lucas, she felt the weight of the world lift off her shoulders. The first few steps were the hardest, but each one felt freer than the last. Her heart was pounding in her chest, not from fear, but from exhilaration. For the first time in years, she felt like she was truly alive. She could hear Lucas's angry footsteps behind her, but she didn't stop. She had made up her mind. She wasn't going back to that life. As Anna reached the end of the street, she heard Lucas call out to her, but she ignored him. She didn't need to hear his desperate pleas. She didn't need him to validate her anymore. She had her own strength now. But deep inside, she felt a pang of guilt. Was she being too harsh? Was she making the right choice? For years, she had depended on Lucas. He had been her rock, her provider, the one who controlled everything in their life. But now, she realized that what she had thought was love was nothing more than control. She had been living in a cage, convinced it was a home. She had been looking for validation from someone who never saw her worth. And now, that person was desperate to keep her. But what did she really want? She had to find out for herself. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. She kept replaying the confrontation with Lucas in her head, over and over again. Each time, the words she had said to him felt more powerful. "I'm walking toward myself," she had declared. It wasn't just a statement. It was a declaration of independence. She had finally broken free. But what now? What did it mean to walk toward herself? She had spent so many years being defined by someone else that she wasn't sure who she was without him. The next morning, Anna woke up with a sense of clarity. She had to take control of her own life, her own future. The first step was to stop hiding from the pain and face it head on. It was time for her to confront her past and start building the life she had always dreamed of. She decided to reach out to Mark. He had been there for her when no one else was. And though she wasn't sure about where their relationship would go, she knew he was someone who respected her for who she was. When she called Mark, she wasn't sure what to expect. She had never been this open with him. But now, she needed someone to talk to. Someone who could help her navigate the mess she had just left behind. Mark answered on the first ring. "Anna, are you okay?" His voice was full of concern. "I'm okay," she replied, though she wasn't entirely sure if that was true. I need to talk. Can we meet up?" "Of course," Mark said. "I'll meet you at that cafe you like." When Anna arrived at the cafe, Mark was already sitting at a table by the window. He stood up when he saw her and smiled, though there was a hint of worry in his eyes. "You look different," he said, his voice soft. "Is everything all right?" Anna sat down across from him, looking out the window for a moment before turning to face him. "I don't know," she said quietly. "I feel like I'm finally seeing things clearly for the first time in years. But it's scary. I don't know where to go from here." Mark reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "It's okay to be scared," he said. "You don't have to have everything figured out right away. Just take it one step at a time. You've already made the hardest part." Anna looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. Mark had always believed in her, even when she didn't believe in herself. "I just don't want to make a mistake," Anna admitted. "I'm afraid of losing myself again. I don't want to go back to that life with Lucas, but I also don't want to hurt anyone, especially you." Mark smiled softly. "You're not going to lose yourself, Anna. You're just finding out who you really are. And as for me, I'm here for you, no matter what." His words were a balm to her soul, and for the first time in a long time, Anna felt a sense of peace. She didn't need Lucas's approval. She didn't need anyone's approval. She was on a path of her own now, and the road was wide open. But just as she was starting to feel a little lighter, a sudden thought crossed her mind. What about Lucas? What about everything they had shared? Would she ever be able to completely let go of him? That night, Anna received a message from Lucas. It was short, to the point. "I want to talk. Please. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this." Anna stared at the screen for a long time, her thumb hovering over the reply button. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to go back and fix everything, to make it right. But deep down, she knew there was no going back. Not anymore. She had already taken the first step toward her own freedom, and that was something she could never undo. Slowly, she typed her response. "I'm not the same person anymore, Lucas. I've changed. I can't go back to what we had." She hit send, then put her phone down. There was no turning back now. Anna stared at the screen, her finger lingering over the send button for what felt like an eternity. The message she had sent to Lucas was clear, but the silence that followed left her feeling uncertain. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she knew she had made the right decision. She had broken free from the chains that had bound her for so long. The weight of Lucas's manipulation was no longer hanging over her. But as the hours passed, Anna couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't fully resolved. Even though she had made her choice, a small part of her still wondered if she had done the right thing. Was she being too harsh? Was she giving up too soon on a relationship that had once meant everything to her? But as these doubts crept in, Anna reminded herself of the truth she had discovered about herself. She had spent so many years living in the shadow of Lucas's control, unable to make decisions for herself, unable to trust her own instincts. Now, for the first time, she was standing on her own 2 feet, and she wasn't going to let anything or anyone take that away from her. The next few days were a whirlwind. Anna focused on herself, on her career, on rediscovering her passions, on spending time with friends who supported her. It felt strange at first, to not be constantly thinking about Lucas or what he might be doing, but with each passing day, it became easier. She was learning how to live for herself, how to prioritize her own happiness. Mark continued to be a constant source of support, but Anna made it clear to him that she needed time to figure out what she wanted. She was still healing, still processing everything that had happened. Mark respected her space, but there was no denying the chemistry between them. Slowly, they began to grow closer, though Anna still kept her heart guarded. She was scared to let anyone in again, scared that history would repeat itself, but Mark was patient. He never pushed her, never tried to force anything. He simply made her feel safe, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, Lucas's attempts to reach out continued. He called, sent messages, and even showed up at her apartment unannounced. At first, Anna ignored him, not wanting to engage. But after a few days, she realized that she needed closure for her own peace of mind. One evening, Anna agreed to meet Lucas, but only in a public place. She couldn't handle another confrontation in private. As they sat across from each other in the crowded cafe, Anna felt a strange mix of emotions. She had once loved this man, but now, all she felt was pity. Lucas's eyes were filled with desperation, and his voice trembled as he spoke. "Anna, please," he begged. "I can't live without you. I know I've made mistakes. I know I've hurt you, but I'll do anything to make things right. Please, don't leave me." Anna listened quietly, her heart aching, but she refused to let herself be swayed. She had already given him everything she had, and he had crushed her spirit time and time again. She had given him chances, only to watch him squander them. "Lucas, I'm sorry," Anna said softly, but firmly. "I can't go back to that. I've already lost myself in this relationship. I can't let that happen again." Lucas's face contorted with anger, but it quickly shifted to one of sadness. "You're really going to walk away from everything we built?" he asked, his voice breaking. Anna shook her head. "What we built wasn't love, Lucas. It was control, and I refused to let myself be controlled anymore." The silence that followed was thick, heavy with the weight of finality. Lucas stared at her for a long moment, as if trying to process the words she had just spoken. Finally, he let out a bitter sigh and stood up. "Fine," he muttered. "I guess I'll just let you go then. But don't expect me to just forget about all this." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving Anna sitting there, feeling a mixture of relief and sorrow. She had finally closed that chapter of her life. It was over. But as she sat there, staring at the empty chair across from her, she felt a deep sense of sadness. She hadn't wanted it to end this way. She had wanted the relationship to work. But sometimes, no matter how much you try, it's just not meant to be. And that was something Anna had to accept. She was no longer the woman who had been defined by someone else. She was Anna, strong, independent, and free. As she walked out of the cafe, she felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She was ready to move forward. She had let go of the past, and she was ready to embrace the future. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was hers to travel. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. As Anna walked away from the cafe, the weight of her decision began to settle in. She had finally closed the door on her past, but there was still so much to process. The echoes of Lucas's desperate pleas still lingered in her mind, and for a moment, she found herself questioning whether she had made the right choice. It wasn't easy letting go of someone who had been a constant in her life for so long, but deep down, she knew she had to do it. She had already spent too many years losing herself in a relationship that never truly valued her. Now, it was time to rebuild. Anna spent the next few weeks focusing on herself. She surrounded herself with people who genuinely cared about her, people who supported her choices and encouraged her to keep moving forward. Mark was still a steady presence in her life, offering comfort and understanding without pushing her for anything more than what she was willing to give. Their connection had deepened, but Anna was still cautious. She wasn't ready to fully open her heart to anyone just yet. She needed time, and Mark understood that. For the first time in years, Anna felt like she was in control of her own life. She took up yoga, started painting again, something she hadn't done in ages, and even signed up for a writing course. It was as if a new world had opened up to her, one where she didn't have to hide or shrink back. Every day, she grew stronger, more confident in herself and in her decisions. She knew it would take time to fully heal from the scars of her past, but she was finally on the path to rediscovering who she truly was. One afternoon, as Anna sat in a cafe with her notebook in front of her, she received another message from Lucas. Her heart skipped a beat, but she forced herself to take a deep breath before opening it. Anna, the message read, "I miss you. Please, can we talk? I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong. I've been thinking a lot, and I realize now that I never truly appreciated you. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. Please, don't shut me out. I need you." Anna stared at the screen, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She hadn't heard from Lucas in weeks, and now, here he was again, trying to pull her back into his orbit. The temptation to reply, to entertain the idea of reconciliation, was strong. But Anna knew better now. She had learned to listen to her own heart, not to the manipulative voices of the past. She put the phone down, closed her eyes, and reminded herself of everything she had already overcome. There was no going back. She had taken too many steps forward. That evening, Anna met Mark at their usual cafe. She had been feeling conflicted all day, but now, as she saw him waiting for her with a warm smile, the uncertainty began to fade. They sat down, and Mark could tell something was on her mind. "You look deep in thought," he said softly. Anna smiled, but it was a bittersweet smile. "I heard from Lucas today," she said quietly. "He wants to talk. He's been apologizing, saying he's changed." Mark's expression softened. "And how do you feel about that?" he asked. Anna took a deep breath, staring out the window for a moment before replying. "I don't know. Part of me wants to believe him, wants to think that maybe things could be different. But I know better now. I can't let myself fall back into that cycle. I've come too far." Mark nodded, his gaze steady and understanding. "You're right. You've worked hard to get to where you are now. You deserve to be happy. You deserve someone who respects you and loves you for who you are, not someone who tries to control you." Anna's heart swelled with gratitude. Mark wasn't just offering her comfort. He was offering her the truth. For so long, she had sought validation from others, but now, she realized that her happiness came from within. She didn't need anyone else to complete her. She was enough on her own. As they continued talking, Anna began to feel a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. She wasn't tied to her past anymore. She was free. She didn't have to worry about Lucas's demands or his manipulations. The only person she needed to answer to now was herself. That night, after leaving the cafe, Anna walked home with a lightness in her step. She felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She had made the right choice. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't without pain, but she was finally taking control of her own life. As she unlocked her door and stepped inside, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. She had found her strength. She had found herself, and no one could take that away from her. The journey ahead was still unknown, but for the first time in a long time, Anna felt ready to embrace it. She was no longer the woman who had been defined by someone else's expectations. She was Anna, strong, independent, and free. And that was more than enough. As Anna continued her journey of self-discovery, she felt a newfound sense of strength growing inside her. Every day, she was becoming more and more comfortable in her own skin, shedding the layers of insecurity that had once defined her. She found herself standing taller, walking with more confidence, and smiling more often. It was as if she had finally come home to herself. But even with all the progress she had made, there were still moments when the past crept in. It wasn't that she regretted leaving Lucas or second-guessed her decision. No, it was the lingering fear that she wasn't enough, that maybe the doubts she had felt during her marriage weren't just imposed by him, but were, in fact, a reflection of her own insecurities. Those fears, however, were becoming less and less powerful with each passing day. Anna had learned that her worth didn't depend on anyone's approval, not even her own. It was a tough lesson, but it was one she had to learn the hard way. She was beginning to embrace her independence in ways she never thought possible. One evening, as Anna sat alone in her apartment, reading a book and enjoying the peaceful solitude she had come to cherish, she heard a knock on the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. She opened the door, and to her surprise, it was Mark. He looked a little nervous, his hands in his pockets, but there was a soft smile on his face. "Hey," he said, "can I come in?" Anna hesitated for a moment. She was enjoying her quiet time, but something about Mark's presence always felt comforting. She stepped aside to let him in. "Of course, come in." Mark walked in and sat down on the couch, looking at her with kind eyes. "I just wanted to check in," he said, his voice gentle. "How are you doing?" Anna smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. "I'm doing really well, actually. Better than I ever thought I could be." Mark raised an eyebrow, clearly pleased. "That's good to hear. I've noticed a change in you, Anna. You're different. In a good way." Anna chuckled softly. "I guess I've had a lot of time to reflect and focus on myself. It's been a journey." Mark nodded in agreement. "I can only imagine. But I'm proud of you. You've come so far." There was a brief silence as Anna looked at him, her heart racing slightly. She appreciated Mark more than words could express. He had been a constant source of support, offering a listening ear without judgment. But there was more to her feelings than just gratitude. "Thank you, Mark," she said sincerely. "You've really been there for me. I don't know what I would have done without you." Mark smiled warmly, but there was something in his eyes that made Anna pause. It was as if he was holding back something he wanted to say but wasn't sure how. He took a deep breath before speaking again. "Anna, there's something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark looked at her, his expression serious but gentle. "I've been falling for you," he said quietly. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Anna felt a mixture of surprise and relief. She hadn't realized it, but a part of her had been hoping he felt the same way. She had spent so much time focusing on herself, on healing, that she hadn't stopped to consider the possibility of a new relationship. Mark was right there, offering her everything she needed: support, kindness, and a love that wasn't tainted by control or manipulation. But Anna was cautious. She had been through so much already. She didn't want to rush into anything, especially not when she was still finding herself. "Mark," she said softly, "I care about you. I really do. But I need to take things slow. I need to be sure that I'm ready for something like this." Mark nodded, his expression softening. "I understand. I'm not going anywhere, Anna. I'll be here, no matter what." Anna felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She didn't need to rush into anything. She had learned to trust herself and to take things one step at a time. For the first time in her life, she was allowing herself to feel. She was allowing herself to open up to the possibility of love again, but only when she was truly ready. The next few weeks were filled with small moments of connection and joy. Anna and Mark spent time together, talking about everything and nothing, sharing laughter and dreams. She felt lighter with him, like she could be her true self without fear of judgment. But she was still cautious, still taking things slow. She wasn't ready to fully let go of the past, but she was open to the future. And with every passing day, she felt a little more confident that the future she was building was one she deserved. As Anna stood at the threshold of a new chapter in her life, she realized that she had learned the most important lesson of all, that love, true love, starts with loving yourself. She had spent so many years searching for someone else to complete her, but now, she knew that she was already whole. She didn't need someone to fill the void in her heart. She had learned to fill it herself. And with that realization, Anna was ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that she was finally in control of her own destiny. As weeks passed, Anna's life continued to shift in ways she never expected. With Mark by her side, she began to feel a sense of peace she had never known before. They spent countless hours together, talking about their dreams, their pasts, and everything in between. Slowly, Anna started to realize that what she was feeling wasn't just a fleeting connection. It was real, deep, and unlike anything she had ever experienced. Mark was kind, patient, and most importantly, he respected her. He didn't try to control her or manipulate her into being someone she wasn't. He accepted her as she was, flaws and all. For the first time in years, Anna felt truly seen and understood. But even as she embraced this new chapter in her life, there was still a part of her that wondered if she was ready to fully move on. She hadn't completely let go of her past, and the shadows of her former relationship with Lucas still lingered in the back of her mind. Lucas had reached out a few times since their last conversation, each message more desperate than the last. He apologized, begged for her forgiveness, and promised he would change. But Anna refused to let herself fall into the trap. Again, she had been through too much to let him pull her back into his world of manipulation. Still, the temptation to reply lingered. Was it wrong to feel compassion for someone who had hurt her so deeply? She knew she couldn't let him back into her life, but a small part of her wondered if he was truly remorseful or just trying to regain control. One afternoon, as Anna sat in the park with Mark, the thoughts about Lucas returned to the forefront of her mind. She couldn't ignore them any longer. She needed closure, even if it meant confronting the feelings she had buried for so long. Mark, Anna said, her voice soft, I've been thinking a lot about Lucas lately. He keeps reaching out, and I can't help but wonder if I'm being too harsh by shutting him out completely. Mark turned to her, his expression thoughtful. I can't speak for what you're feeling, Anna, he said gently, but I know that you deserve peace. If he's truly sorry, then that's something he has to work on. You've done your part. You can't keep carrying his guilt or his past. Anna nodded, taking in his words. She had been carrying that guilt for too long, and it wasn't fair to her, or to the new life she was building. I just wish I had closure, she admitted. I need to know that I did the right thing. Mark smiled warmly, placing a reassuring hand on hers. You don't need his closure to move on, Anna. You've already found your own. You've done the hard work. You've faced the truth, and you've made the right choice. That's all the closure you need. His words settled in her heart like a soothing balm. Anna realized that he was right. She didn't need Lucas to validate her decisions. She had already done the hard work of breaking free, of healing, and of choosing her own path. The only validation she needed now was from herself. The next day, Anna decided to take one final step toward letting go of her past. She called Lucas, something she hadn't done in weeks, and when he picked up, she spoke with a calmness that surprised even her. Lucas, she said, I've thought a lot about everything, and I've come to the conclusion that it's time for me to move on. I've forgiven you, in my heart, but I can't keep allowing you to hold a place in my life. I need to move forward, and I can't do that while you're still trying to pull me back. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Lucas's voice cracked with emotion. Anna, please. I never meant to hurt you. I'm sorry. I don't know how to let you go. Anna's heart ached for him, but she knew she couldn't let his pain define her anymore. You have to let go too, Lucas, she said softly. I'm not your burden anymore. We both need to move on. You have to find your own path, just like I've had to find mine. Another silence followed, and Anna could hear the sound of Lucas's shaky breath. I understand, he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. I wish you the best, Anna. Goodbye, Lucas, Anna said, her voice firm but kind. She ended the call and sat there for a moment, feeling the weight of the finality of it all. She didn't feel anger or regret. Instead, there was a sense of release, of freedom. She had finally let go. She had finally closed that chapter. As Anna looked at Mark, who had been silently supportive throughout the entire conversation, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had come so far, and she wasn't done yet. There were still challenges ahead, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid. She had found her strength. She had found herself. And as she took Mark's hand, she knew that whatever the future held, she was ready to face it, on her own terms. As the weeks turned into months, Anna found herself embracing a new rhythm in life, one where she was no longer defined by the expectations of others. The sense of freedom she had gained from letting go of Lucas had become a foundation for the future she was building. Every day felt like a new beginning, and she approached each one with a newfound sense of purpose. Her career, which had once taken a back seat to her relationship with Lucas, was now thriving. She had taken on more responsibility at work, and her colleagues had begun to notice her confidence. It wasn't just the external changes that she was proud of, it was the internal transformation. She felt stronger, more self-assured, and more connected to who she truly was. Mark continued to be a steady presence in her life, though Anna was still cautious. She appreciated him more than she could express, but part of her still struggled to fully open her heart. She wasn't sure if she was ready to dive into another relationship, especially one that held the promise of something more serious. But with Mark, it felt different. He never pressured her. He respected her space and was content to simply be there for her. That alone was something Anna had never experienced before. For the first time, she was with someone who didn't want to control her. One evening, as the sun set over the city, Anna found herself walking through the park with Mark. It was a cool autumn night, and the leaves had begun to turn brilliant shades of orange and red. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, enjoying the quiet of the evening. Anna was reflecting on how far she had come. Just a few months ago, she had been trapped in a toxic relationship, unsure of who she was or what she wanted. Now, she was standing tall, both figuratively and literally, with her own life and her own dreams ahead of her. Mark broke the silence, his voice warm but hesitant. "Anna, I know you've been through a lot, and I respect that you're taking things at your own pace," he began. "But I want you to know that I care about you, more than I've ever cared about anyone before." Anna's heart skipped a beat. She had felt this connection between them growing, but hearing him say it out loud made everything feel real. She turned to him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of hesitation. There was none. "Mark," she said softly, "I care about you too. But I'm still figuring things out. I'm still learning to trust myself, to trust that I can be happy on my own before I give myself to someone else." Mark nodded, his expression softening. "I understand, Anna. I don't want to rush you. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I want to support you, whatever that looks like." Anna smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. It was the kind of love she had always dreamed of, a love that wasn't about possession or control, but about mutual respect and support. As they continued their walk, Anna realized something profound. She had already been through the hardest part. She had let go of her past, let go of the toxic relationship that had defined her for so long. Now, she was ready to embrace whatever came next. She didn't need anyone else to make her whole. She was whole on her own. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of gentle conversation and quiet moments. When Anna returned home later that night, she felt at peace. She knew that her journey wasn't over, but it had taken a significant step forward. She had broken free from the person she once was and was building something new, something real, something hers. The next few days were filled with reflection, and Anna spent time focusing on her personal growth. She continued to work on her career and even began taking up new hobbies that had once seemed impossible: painting, yoga, and even meditation. She was building a life she could be proud of, and it was her life, not anyone else's. As the days turned into weeks, the pain from her past began to fade into the background. It didn't disappear completely. There would always be scars from her time with Lucas, but those scars no longer defined her. She had found peace with them. One afternoon, as Anna sat at her favorite cafe with a cup of tea in hand, she received a message from Lucas. It had been months since they had last spoken, and the message was brief. "I hope you're doing well, Anna. I'm sorry for everything. I truly wish you the best." Anna read the message slowly, allowing the weight of it to settle over her. There was no anger or bitterness in his words, just a quiet acknowledgement of the past. She could feel the finality in it. She had moved on, and Lucas was beginning to let go as well. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. The message itself was enough. It was an unspoken acknowledgement that they were both moving forward, each in their own way. As Anna put her phone down, she felt a deep sense of peace wash over her. She didn't need closure from him. She had already found it within herself. Her past was behind her, and her future was waiting. She was no longer the woman who had been afraid to make choices. She was the woman who had made the hardest choice of all, to choose herself. And that, she realized, was the best decision she had ever made. Months passed, and Anna's life continued to evolve in ways she hadn't anticipated. The peace she had once only dreamed of was becoming her reality, and every day she woke up with a sense of purpose, no longer tethered to the past or the expectations of others. Her career was flourishing, and she felt more connected to her true self than ever before. There were moments when she looked back at the pain, at the time she had spent with Lucas, and the woman she had been. But those moments no longer held the same power. She had come so far, and her future was full of possibilities. As she walked through the park one crisp fall afternoon, Anna couldn't help but smile. The world around her seemed to mirror her inner transformation. The trees were shedding their leaves, preparing for a new season, much like she had shed the layers of doubt and fear that had once defined her. It felt like the perfect time to embrace what was to come. Mark had remained a steady presence in her life, but their relationship had developed into something deeper over time. They were no longer just friends, but partners. Anna still valued her independence, but with Mark, she had found someone who respected that and supported her in every way. He didn't rush her, didn't try to force anything. He simply allowed their connection to grow at its own pace. And for the first time in a long time, Anna felt the warmth of being loved without strings attached. One evening, as they sat together on Anna's couch, sipping wine and enjoying the quiet, Mark turned to her with a serious look in his eyes. "Anna," he began, his voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking a lot about us. And I want you to know that I'm not in a hurry for anything, but I also want to be open with you. I care about you, more than you know, and I see a future with you." Anna's heart raced as she looked at him. She had felt this connection growing for months, but hearing him say it aloud brought a rush of emotions. For so long, she had been afraid of being hurt, of losing herself again, but with Mark, it felt different. He wasn't trying to possess her, wasn't asking her to be someone she wasn't. He simply wanted to share a life with her, one built on trust and respect. Anna took a deep breath and smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Mark, I care about you too. I've been afraid of moving forward, afraid of opening my heart again. But I realize now that it's not about rushing or forcing something. It's about trusting myself, trusting you, and trusting that we're building something real. I'm ready for that." As the words left her lips, Anna felt a sense of relief. She had been holding on to fear, but now she was letting it go. She was ready to embrace the future, no matter what it held. Mark smiled, his eyes shining with affection. "I'm here for you, Anna. No matter what happens, I'll be here." It wasn't a grand declaration or a promise that everything would be perfect. It was simply a commitment to being there, to supporting each other through the ups and downs. And for Anna, that was enough. Over the following months, their relationship deepened, and Anna continued to grow. She learned to embrace the vulnerability that came with love, to trust in the bond they were building. There were still moments of doubt, moments when the fear of her past threatened to resurface. But with Mark by her side, she learned to push those fears aside. She was no longer defined by her past mistakes or the hurt she had endured. She was free, and she had built a life she was proud of. As the seasons changed, so did Anna. She had transformed from the woman who once believed she wasn't enough into someone who was strong, independent, and capable of loving and being loved. She had faced the darkest parts of her past, and through it all, she had emerged stronger. The woman who had been afraid to choose herself was now the woman who stood proudly in her own light. And as she walked hand in hand with Mark, ready to face whatever life had in store for them, she knew that the journey had only just begun. But this time, she wasn't walking alone. She had found her strength. She had found herself. And with that, Anna was ready to take on the future, her future. The road ahead was unknown, but one thing was certain. It was hers to walk, and she was ready for it.